and Tamarack from the planet XL9. Hi, and welcome to Our Life Now and Forever with me, a girl no fuse. I don't know anything about this game, the games before it, nothing. The only thing I do know about it is that it's customizable. I don't know what that means. We're going to find out. And this is just the demo, so if you guys would like for me to play the full game when it's come out, you guys know what to do. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, when the game is complete, the entire story will be playable from start to end for free. However, optional paid DLCs will be available to add in even more scenes. Okay, so when it does come out, it's free. That's nice. The very start is a brief tutorial that will be skippable in future playthroughs. It'll help you get acquainted with all the many ways your choices can impact how the game plays. Okay? At any time, you can press the pref button on the left side of the game screen to open the settings page and make the students better suited for you. In between those points are two other stages of life: 14-year-old oh my god, I'm butchering words, and 18-year-old young adulthood. These time periods are referred to as steps 1 through 4. I'm glad they told us in black and white, but I feel like I would have figured it out as I played, but that's just me. This demo contains scenes from childhood and brief look into adults. Oh my god, please do not have this word anymore in this game. I am butchering it. My tongue is being tied. You'll be able to determine almost everything about the playable character: name, appearance, personality, pronouns, skills, weaknesses, how they act, what they feel, and more. And all those details can change as you grow over the course of the game. However, they won't be forgotten. Okay, what does that mean? Who you are and who you were is remembered by the game and the characters you meet. Choices you pick in step 1 can still be referenced all the way in step 4. It builds together. Oh, okay. The goal of Our Life is to let you truly live your own unique life in a quaint mountain town of Golden Grove. But there are also two lead characters who will grow up alongside your own MC. Tamarack Baumune, oh my god, I'm so sorry for butchering your names, and Qiu Lin. You'll have the option of being their friend, pursuing one romantically, just having them be people you know, letting your connection change over time, and so on. Your relationship is customizable and progresses at whatever rate you want it to, if you want it to, though there are a couple limits to what you can do, such as you can't date them both or break up with one after officially getting together. Dig it! So we can't do that traditional visual novel stuff where you romance a character, go through one whole path, and then just kind of backtrack and go with someone else. I guess they're saying the game is going to remember and be like, nah, you can't do that. If you've had a lead become your romantic partner, that's permanent. Tamarack is a little girl with she/her pronouns when you meet her. She always identifies as a woman and she uses she and her pronouns. Okay. Qiu begins the story as a little boy who has he/him pronouns, but questions her gender as the years go by. Qiu will ultimately come out as gender fluid. Qiu's pronouns are only they, them in step 2. They use he and they in step 3 and 4. Our Life Now and Forever doesn't include the option to romance a strictly male identifying character. Okay, but we do have another game, Our Life Begins and Always, if that's your preference. Okay, also, since they put that little plug in right there, if you guys want me to play Our Life Beginnings and Always, let me know. Let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely give it a try. There will be other characters to interact with and befriend besides Tamarack and Qiu, though those two are the main focal points. How well you get along with other kids, your teachers, your mom, and so on is still in your control. With those basics mentioned, the tutorial will move on to a new screen now to explain another major gameplay element. The first thing you'll do in Our is design the appearance and basic details of the character. I've played so many, I've played Sims, I played a lot of customized character games. Like, you don't have to explain this to me. I understand. Okay, like, can't, you know what? I'm just gonna skip through this because I get it. Why shouldn't tell me something important? Okay, so it says I can change this if I want to, like appearance. Okay. Okay. So it says like as the game progresses, new things can appear for you to change up your character without time. That's basically what it's saying. But for me, I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. This might take me a minute, so yeah, I'm gonna give y'all a nice little jump cut and we'll be back. All right, and we're back. Look at her. Isn't she cute? Oh, now we gotta come with a name. Wait, average. Average height. Can we mess with it? Wait. But what kind of scale are we going off of? Average, tall. No, let's just say average. Let's say right-handed. Okay, I didn't think of a name for her. I didn't know what to call her, so I'm gonna call her Luna. Cookie. I don't know. She looks like a little cookie to me. Like, I don't know why, but like I every time I see her little face, it just reminds me of a cookie. So her last name's Cookie. Now that you've got your own character ready, you'll be able to influence the appearance of your biological mom. What we can choose how her mom's supposed to look like. Make her look nothing like me. Are you the father? No. She has 3 hair textures and 6 tones. You can have her look as similar as different from your MC. Oh, she's gonna look different as hell. Yeah, she chose to raise a child on her own and use artificial to give birth to your. Why do we need this backstory? The biological pop never appears in the story. Okay, I was joking. I was joking to the fact like you are not the father, but then the tutorial was like, the father is not in the story. He went to go get milk and he never came back. Thanks, tutorial. So if your character happens to look nothing like their mom, it can be assumed that they take after the off-screen father instead. You also get to choose what term your character refers to her by. Mom, currently it must be a title in order to make sense in the script. If you enter her first name, the phrasing won't make sense. Later builds of the game may be suited for calling her by her name. Let me call my mom by my first name. She will slap the shit out of me. You'll also be able to change the title you use for her at the start of every new step. Her skin tone and hair texture will remain consistent for the rest of the game. I'm just gonna say mom. That's it. That's all I can do with her. Okay. Put on so with icons. Yeah, I want to say with icons. Oh wait, is it okay? It is one or the other. A comic book style layout without icons. I'll say with icons. We're gonna check out comic book style. We're gonna see how that looks. It looked like fall in Golden Grove. More than any place you've seen before, it could be in one of your old picture books to show little kids what autumn was supposed to be. There weren't any green trees or bushes, but there weren't just bare branches yet. It was almost the same as normal. All that has changed were colors: red, orange, yellow, brown. Even the blue of the sky high above your head seemed different than it did in summer. It wasn't as bright either, as though it had gotten tired of sparkling by this late in the year, or like it was even farther away from now that you were in this place. The plants and sky didn't get this way where you lived, where you used to live. Your thoughts continued to jump around while you stood there in the big circle of the street at the end of the road. It was a weird path to you. It couldn't take you ahead or to the sides or anywhere else like most streets you've gone down. This one only came right here with those big houses. The view in front of you was something you'd only ever seen in photos before, from stapled together papers that advised the middle house being for sale. It had been a picture book to you until this day. Now you knew that it felt like from here too, because it was cold outside. Chilly enough that you sometimes held your eyes closed for the few seconds than usual to try keeping your eyeballs from feeling like they were gonna freeze inside your head. This was a real place, the icy air surrounding you said, and you were really in it, and it was where you were going to stay. That was new. Your mom and you had lived in apartments before, and never for a long time. That was until she got a big job in this not that big town and bought a big house. You wouldn't be going anywhere for a long time. Now in that moment, you wouldn't imagine being there forever. But that's just the way it was. The old tin house at the very end of the long brown road was now your house, standing tall with two others by its side. Those buildings were homes too, with their own people living inside, and those people in those ancient houses were going to be your neighbors. Okay. It seemed okay to you. What's with all these choices? It made you so sad you felt scared. This was really to be something you thought. How much worse could it be than what it was like before? Coming here had given you hope maybe your future would be good. There wasn't much you felt about that. You were mad. You were super excited about... I'm going to say this one. Nothing was going to be boring anymore. And it was even better because you'd be doing this with your mom. And it was good that that part was nice. Since your mom was no, oh my god, no matter what, you'll keep looking out for your mom. I'm gonna do this one. You'd have so much fun together. Oh, that was your mom's voice. You hadn't noticed she'd gone so far. You wasted no time catching up in order to reunite with her. Off the cul-de-sac road and cutting across lines of grass and sidewalk, you reached the picket fence your mom had called from. The gate was unlocked. Unlike the other houses, in front of yours was a tiny gray stone walkway that led up to a couple little steps, and those steps led to a door. Thank you for describing how walking works. I'm sorry, it's just like, I get it. Can we get to the story now? You've been describing a neighborhood for the longest time now. You walked along a private path, making sure each foot landed squarely on a rock and not on one of the dirt cracks in between until you arrived at the end of the line. Then you hopped the tiny stairs to join your mom. And there your mom was, staying at the edge of the porch, arms folded and waiting. You knew that they were real opal stones because she told you before when she first got them. She also told you a long time ago that her normal name, not Mom, was Opal. Okay. Her clothes were the colors of cloudy day after rain had already come and gone. The kind of day that would be cold and bad or really relaxing and comfy. It depended. You wondered which way she looked at it from. You didn't know. The rest of her, though, was so much more bold, especially the matching purpley cranberryness of both her hair and eyes. There weren't a lot of things out in the world with that color that could feel gloomy. Mom smiled at you. It made you feel as soft and warm on the inside as your mom was on the outside. Oh man. Her mouth stayed in the shape of a smile, but her eyes and eyebrows changed, bending in a way that made it seem like she wasn't really smiling, or some other kind of smile. Well, which is it? Are you smiling or not? She put a hand on one of the white painted pole things that kept the porch roof from falling down. Her fingers moved along it. You shifted your weight from one foot to the other. This was a big deal to your mom. Her whole life was changing too. You hoped it wouldn't be a mistake. You didn't want your mom to be sad. She bent down, placing her hands on her knees in order to speak directly to you on the same level. Oh my god. I read all the negative ones first. I was like, jeez. I'm gonna say this one. Jeez. Mom went back to her normal way of standing with her head up high and arms folded. Enjoy. Oh, I'm not gonna read this. I think the only other person I'm going to read besides my own inner monologue is like when the other main characters come in. With that, you flipped around and bounded down the steps and went back towards the sidewalk ready to explore. Step 1. Prologue. Your shoes really squished into the dirt part where you cross from where we're down this. Oh my god, I just messed up that whole thing. The smell of grass and rain softened ground crisp through somehow also kind of musty hung in the air, bringing a whole new year of school with it. You were going to be a 5th grader. It would be completely different from being a 4th grader, and not just because you're attending a new school. You'd be in the highest grade of the place. Maybe that was why your mom was so sure that you could do this by yourself. You were growing up. It felt good knowing there was more and more out there than you'd be able to explore on your own. Then before you took one more step, there was a faint tap against your shoulder. It was barely stronger than the wind, but it was definitely something, and it was completely out of nowhere. It was a ghost, you deduced. You wondered what that was. You jumped straight out of the air in shock, both fists up. Oh my god. Personally, it would be one of these two. If I was not expecting it, I would be like, put your dukes up, or like, oh my god. I think for giggles, I think I'm gonna do this. This town was haunted, and so there were old houses. It made sense. Rapidly, you ping-ponged your gaze from left to right, trying to get a glimpse of the poking perpetrator. No one was there. The neighborhood was empty, except for you. Yes, you judged. It was an invisible ghost. Or you would have settled on that if you hadn't noticed there was a thing you could actually see left behind from the counter. Sitting there in between the muddy brown blades of grass was something new. Oh, a paper plane. A paper plane? Who would throw this at a stranger, and why would they disappear after doing it? As you considered those questions, your gaze shifted back towards the right, the side of the street where the tap came from. Whoever sent this to you had to have gone that way. You crouched down to grab it, and while keeping a lookout to make sure nothing else snuck up on you, the paper didn't feel the same crickly, crackly way most normal paper did. It was thicker, somehow, almost like a piece of cloth. It was cottony. That wasn't the only part that stood out. The page was a tan color with dark brown lines, not white and blue or white and black or something regular. More questions to add to the confusion. Where would paper like that come from? Oh, I thought that was the aesthetic of the game. I did not think that was an actual thing for the paper in this game. I thought it was just aesthetic. That's what I thought. You know, anime theme, anime looking paper. That's what I thought, really. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. You turned the paper plane around in your hands and squinted your eyes keenly. There were pencil markings on the underside. The paper had scribbles and maybe even letters. That was enough of a sign to undo the shape someone had put together. You pulled the flaps of the plane and flattened it out between your palms as best you could. It was true, the paper airplane had a message. Well, Maybe. There were some words on it, but not a lot, and they were in different lines from each other. You read over each tiny part from top to bottom. Hello. Go out. Hide out. And then in the bottom corner was Luna Cookie. Your name. It had been addressed to you personally. There was no mistake that you were the one meant to get that plane. But how'd they know your name, though? You scrunched up your face. A person wrote stuff on a piece of paper, turned it into a paper plane, threw it at another person, and the message they sent was that? Maybe the words were a code you had to break. You had to tell your mom right now you were going to get to the bottom of this. Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Someone or something had to have sent this to you. You weren't going to stop until you found out who and why. Past the parts where the light shone through the clouds and the parts where it got darker. You began your investigation by heading in the same direction the paper had hit you from. The half circle of houses was out of sight by the time the normal sidewalk ended, and it really ended. Instead of connecting to another street with homes or stores, there was a car road behind you and a bunch of trees playing ground in front. Going down the road would have to bring you to the rest of town, eventually, but you were sure that would be straying too far, like your mom warned against. That was okay, you had other options. Oh my god. I don't know why, but all the orange and red made me think fire. I was like, oh my god, what happened? How we go to 0 to 100? But no, idiots, we're just in the forest now. Bending in between the dark trunks and bright leaves were two lines, stamped out through the grass. They were in opposite directions. It was a crossroads. One led more towards where the neighborhood was, but back further, right at the edge of where the forest started. The other went completely into the trees, a walking path for the people who lived there. You stood there at the start of this turning point in the woods in your life, feet poised to move over the stirring thicket floor. But you didn't know where you were going. Obviously, if we choose this when we're going to go on the path and this when we're just going to wander to the forest, a part of me wants to wander to the forest. But if we get lost, and next thing you know, our mom's gonna find us, and then she's gonna whip me when she gets back to the house or something. I don't know. I feel like we're just gonna be straying and straying, or maybe like they stop for a moment and then they turn back and then we come back here again. So I'm just gonna go here. There was a path here that was definitely more worth trying than the other. You were sure of it. Something on the inside just told you so. You went down walking the path on the left. Yeah, I'm going left. And your quest continued. You went through the forest path. You truly entered the wild woods. Nothing else surrounded you any longer. Nature spread across the land with a narrow dirt line and fence being the only sign anyone had walked in this spot before you. People were only visitors here. Golden and red leaves gently rustled against each other in thick clumps, with each tree's branches flowing into others nearby. I was about to say neighborhood. It was enough to keep the sky and the sun out almost immediately, but the leaves turned bright with light basking over them from above. The foot-made passage continued to twist around and higher into the mountainside, farther than you could see. You are maze. The forest was frightening. It was dirty and icky. You referred neighborhood over the woods. You found easy. I would say it was sort of nice. With your wide and wondrous gaze through every which way, you would let yourself flow deeper into the thicket. The quiet bumble that existed here in the forest, away from the town, popped from the sudden unnatural clatter. You stopped. It was a whooshing, thumping, stirring up the leaves like something had crashed into them. You knew for sure that wasn't the wind. It had to have been an animal or a person, and it came from right over there. You decided to just take a peek. Oh my god. I really want to say because I feel like it would hit them, and Let's just pick that. While keeping your gaze trained forward, you bent down and felt around for a good-sized branch, or something else that you'd be able to throw far, but still have enough weight to get through the trees. Once you wrapped your fingers around a chunk of bark, that worked. You stretched your arm back behind your head and threw the stick in front of you. It flung forward and noisily disappeared into the brush. You couldn't see where it landed, the leaves swallowing up whole. But that's all that happened. Nothing jumped out at you, and it just got quiet again. Let me do this. You pulled up your socks and began to make your way off the path and through the overgrowth. It was hard to keep your footing on the slanted, untripped ground. I don't know why. Maybe I've just played too many horror games lately, but this would be a perfect moment for a jump scare. It's peaceful, it's quiet, then all of a sudden something appears out the ether and towards the screen. Like, oh my god, that was the first thing that just popped into my head. But you know, it's tranquil, it's nice, cozy. When you reached a really tree-cleared spot, you grasped at the branches and pushed them aside in order to open enough space for you to get past. You moved them the same way you'd open up a set of curtains, but it was a lot harder to do. The tiniest branches couldn't take the bend and snap from the pressure. You could feel the splinty ends of the plant scratch a little at your face and close. It wasn't as smooth of an entrance as you hoped it would be. On the other side of the tree line was still the woods, but kind of an empty part. There was a lot of open ground with no trees or bushes growing and a ton of leaves that were gathered into piles. Past that clearing, the trees were back and even more closely pressed together than they were by the path. It was mysterious. There was nowhere easy to go and nothing seemed to be out of place to you until... Oh, hello! Hello! There was a shout and a new whirlwind of leaves rushing through the air. From underneath one of the piles was a kid. You knew that was going to happen. You stared at them and they looked right back at you as everything they'd thrown into the air gently drifted back down. You're crazy! I'm gonna say this. No, I heard you coming. The kid kicked their legs up and down the leaf pile that surrounded them. The crunch of dried plants finished the message. I went to hide just now so I could jump out when you got here. They talked about it a lot, like it was the obvious thing to do. Your reaction... Wait, is this my inner monologue? Oh my god, I thought it was still them talking. I'm so sorry. They talked about it like it was the obvious thing to do, and your reaction was confusing to them. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. That got the stranger giggling. I would have gotten out after a while and played some more. Wait here. The jumping jack kid hopped again, but this time it was to get up off the ground. They dashed to the opposite edge of the open space, leaving scattering behind them, dropping out their clothes and beginning kicked up by their steps. You were already wondering what was going to happen next. From behind one of the tall crooked trees, the kid began throwing sticks and other plant pieces around. They were uncovering a hidden treasure, a big brown bag. They had to use both hands to lift the pouch and get it over their head. The thick strap pulled tight under the strain of the weight attached to it. The line of their mouth looked just as strained. The stranger huffed when they released the bag from their fingers, laying a wrist completely across their shoulder. You heard stuff bumping around inside from your position way over here. It was a really full pack, but it didn't slow that kid down. They ran back at full speed to meet you where you were. When they were in front of your face, they gave a wave and asked a question. Oh no! I didn't mean to skip it. You suddenly had a stranger leaning their face closer to yours to try and getting a better look at your eyes. You don't have to yell about it. Oh. I'm gonna say this one. Whoever they were hummed a happy reply. Yeah, it's fancy. The kid then kept talking like the whole thing didn't even happen. Hi, are you a girl too? She sung her own praises in a chiming tone. Both girls, both girls. And all of a sudden, the leafy girl seemed to remember to introduce herself the way most people do. I'm Tamarack, from the planet XL9. I don't know why, but this... why this name? It really sounds like the name sounds like it came from a sci-fi alien fiction. I'm sorry, I just had it was such an opening, like Tamarack. Out of all the names, this was not what I was expecting. Remember, what does that mean? Tamarack, that's a tree. Wait, isn't that the normal word and not the name? Simple not. That is a weird name. I'm gonna say, what does that mean? A tamarack is a kind of tree. I like it a lot. Oh, is it a tree? I don't know my plants like that. So, what's your name? Where did the library card come from? Wow, hi Luna. She greeted you with a finger spread wave of her hand, as sweetly as if you'd always known each other and she'd done it 100 times. Do you like it? Your name? I mean, I chose it. Oh, alright. Your ribbon is nice. You proudly reach up the street. Why are you here? Where did you come from? Are you visiting? She piled on one question after another, letting them bubble out like her laughter. I'm not some kind of tourist. My mom and me moved into town. Tamarack gasped, her large eyes opening even wider. They were full of sparkles. Me too! I'm new too. I moved to live with my Omi and Oppa. They have a house here and I'm gonna be there now. Yeah, I would just want to make sure. Nope. Omi and Oppa means Granny and Grandpa. Okay. See, I'm glad I asked. We're asking the right questions here because I would have thought maybe those were names that she made for her mom and dad or something. But no, it's for her grandpa and grandma. It's German. Oh my god, that is not the question to ask for someone you just met. Yeah, I've been here 5 days and it's really good. There's so much out here. I probably won't be finished for a long, long time. Months, maybe. This is my very first day in Golden Grove. Wow, that's barely different at all. We're a match. She furrowed her extra short eyebrows as much as she could as a new idea came to her. Hey, we're both girls and new. What if we're at the same age too? I would just do this. Next year, you wouldn't even have enough fingers to answer that way. Hooray! Same age forever! Happily, Tamarack held onto a worn strap of her big bag and bounced up and down in place. You decided that this was the perfect time to talk to her about what you were doing. I'm gonna say this. She began to cheer louder, and the moment she caught sight of the unusually colored paper, you got it! Yes, I got it. It's right here. Woo! She flung her arms up over her head in celebration, knocking her bag out to the side. It made a thump noise when it swung back against her. My aim is good! You blinked at her in disbelief. You'd done it. You found the mystery person who made the strange paper airplane message. I mean, I'm gonna choose this only because she's not explaining why she threw it at me, didn't approach me normally, or anything like that. Or maybe even threw it and kind of like waved, like, yeah, I'm the one who threw it. Like, none of that. She just vanished. We had to go into the forest and find her. So, I'm gonna choose this one. Oh, that's also another good question. How would you know my name? No, I mean before. Yes, exactly. I didn't know it before that. What is that supposed to mean? You thought you knew what disbelief was a second ago, but hearing that made you feel it in ways you never had before. The stunned look on your face got Tamarack to add more. The paper I used wasn't mine. It was littered in the woods. I picked it up and put it in my bag because I couldn't leave it there on the ground. But why'd that random piece of paper have my name on it? Then when I saw you standing on the road, I just had an idea. I could do something fun with that garbage by making it a paper airplane for you. So you didn't write anything on it? Yeah, I did. So it was a bunch of random words that just happened to spell a convenient message with a conveniently placed name of ours. Come on. Nah, no. Yeah, then who did write the note? I don't know. That was all she said. Tamarack couldn't tell you anything more. The person who wrote that strange message for you was still a mystery. You hadn't found them even after meeting the paper airplane person. So somebody else wrote the note and then probably trashed it, and then she picked it up, turned it into an airplane, and threw it at me. Which is still a weird thing to do if you're trying to get someone's attention, especially after you throw it, try to get their attention, and then go into a leaf pile in the woods. You shrugged and accepted it. You were thrilled that the mystery had deepened. You felt creeped out. Okay, yeah. Because now we got another person to find. This was so much more exciting than you had thought. You started thinking more and more about this, making plans in your head. Tamarack could tell something was going on with you. Luna, what did the paper say? Was it funny? Do you think random stuff is funny? It was short, and all the parts were on different lines. The words were, hello, go out, hide out, Luna cookie. What? So weird. Who would write that? I know, that's what I was thinking. It's strange. She took a big hop closer to you, a smile growing across her face as she landed. You should keep going, and I'll come too. That paper isn't very old. It would have gotten wet or eaten by bugs if it was out there in the forest for a while. We could track them down and ask them what they were doing. There are always so many choices for dialogue. It's like, dang. I'll just say this. Woohoo! Tamarack snatched up a nearby stick off the ground and directed the pointy end forward, the way you had come from. We're gonna find the litterer who puts weird things on paper. And so you brushed to walk along the brown fall brush again. Now with your new partner in the adventure, Tamarack came along from behind you with eager skipping steps. She was right. You were going to find that note writer person who knew your name. Soon you reached the head of the path. You were at the crossroad once more, but you brought back knowledge and this new girl with you. Alright, we did that one. It's where you were, and down there's just a car road. You stood at Tamarack's side, gesturing around eminently with both hands. You didn't know if that helped her understand better, but you couldn't keep still. But there's that way over on the other side. You bent your knees, stretched out both arms, and pointed across the forward patches to where the second dirt imprint was. Tamarack couldn't possibly miss it with your direction. With her lips shut into a tight line, she nodded rapidly with seriousness, but only for a second. Then she was perky again. She was having fun and only pretended like she wasn't always so silly. Yeah, okay, down the tree path for you and me. The decision easily made. Your and her crunching footsteps started up again in unison, and still your quest continued. The path ended up being kind of a trick. You ran out of dirt to walk on after a minute or two, and it became plain grass again. Luckily, you had to keep following the curved bend of brush and tree trunks that separated the forest from not the forest to know you were going where you had planned to go. Tamarack hummed a happily tune, not bothered by the change in the ground at all. You made eye contact as you started to speak words instead of music. It's good that we're looking this way. Walking down the road that goes to town would have been a bad idea. Do your Omi and Oppa have a rule against it? I don't know. Oh, then how come? Her eyes went wide. Whatever news she had to give must be something awful. Luna, you have no idea because you just got here, but I've seen it. The town here is bad. The buildings were probably new when Omi and Oppa were 10. It's old and dusty. Nobody's going anywhere, doing anything. They just live in this place, sit around and do that forever. You could never have fun here. She spoke gravely, giving a topic a moment of silence. After that, her spark came back, lighting up her features. But it's okay, since you're right next to here. Tamarack hopped along, directing her stick to the tree line at her sides. Everything in the forest is growing or dying or changing no matter what. You look at one spot, you look at a different spot. You look back at the new spot, and you'll see something new you didn't even notice before. She spread her arms across up in front of her face playfully. It's magic! Wow, you're right. Then as you strolled even farther, something came into view. You almost didn't notice it at first. Stretching about as high as the trees, you made out a practically the same colored wood with a tower sort of thing. The bottom of it mostly empty space with thin, thick poles at the corners and only one full wall. There were little thick rocks stuck at the boards on the wall side, probably for people to climb on. Above was an actual floor with slanty roof and railings around. Some ropes dangled off in multiple spaces. The thought came to you that it had the same feeling as a treehouse, except not in a tree. It definitely wasn't a real house. You might have to find a local playground. A squealing whisper came into your ear. Tamarack had noticed the wood things too. Let's go see it! She pulled away from the side of your head to march to the tower without waiting for you to even answer. Curiously, you moved closer until you were right in front, and that's when you came to the shocking realization that there was something in there at the top. Eyes squinted to try seeing more clearly, and your net back so far ahead might fall off, you could make out a lumpy pile. I'm gonna say I grabbed him. Reaching one hand higher and the other closer to anchor yourself, you grabbed hold of a different fake rocks attached to the wall. You then situated one of your feet onto the lowest climbing point. You huffed and strained your arms to pull. The foot on the rock then carried all your weight as you lifted the other into the air. It was tricky, but you got the second foot against a rock of its own that was higher up than the first. You made it fully off the ground. Hello? Hello? Is somebody home? The sudden sound of clattering ruckus from inside the fort made you flinch in place. It was a scrambling, thudding noise that you knew came from movement. That lump stopped being just a lump. It shot up, bent over to the railing, peered down, and saw you. It was another kid. They had a pointy hairline. I'm gonna say this one. Your hand started to shake as you held yourself up against the wall. You had to step back onto the grass. The person stayed put. The silent standoff of surprise played up between you and the stranger. Then, altogether, one half of their mouth, one on their eyebrow, and then one of their hands shifted upwards. That lopsided pose they had, and the fact that they were at the top of the tower made them seem pretty in charge. Yeah, they got that, got that cool vibe. So for this character, I'm not gonna talk because I've been talking for pretty much. So I'm gonna be pretty silent with their lines. Oh, we're in their backyard. Dang, my bad. Oh, they were in charge here. Yeah, there's no fence either. Somehow they twisted their snout and leaned over the railing even more than before. You knew what a house was and what a backyard was. The kid was making a joke of you. Your perfectly wise argument didn't have an impact on their stupid smile at all. Thank you for saying so. I have more land than you. Thanks for letting me know. Oh snap! I'm sorry. I started reading on my own. She didn't miss a beat, waving, introducing herself to the new person. Hi, I'm Tamarack. At that, they pressed the palms of their hands hard against the railing. They used it to kick their legs over the sides and throw themselves right off the floor. Whoa! There was a powerful crunch and gust of air when the person hit the ground just a little to the side where you were. They landed on their feet, crouching into the ball and making the hood of their jacket flip over their head from the impact of falling so far. The person stayed like that for long enough that the leaves stirred up, settled quietly onto the grass again. Then the kids straightened themselves out with more poise than you could have expected. Square shoulders, chin up, and with one hand they pushed the hood down over their back again. They were confident and knew how to show it. What's what? I'm conflicted. I want to say that they're cool, but at the same time, I don't want to tell them at the same time. Because they had that stupid smile like, huh? I'm gonna say speechless. They took hold of the open sides of their jacket and flapped them out, shaking off the bits of sticks and whatever other stuff that got on it when they collided with the dirt. They shifted their head around to get their hair back over their shoulders the way it was before, and then jabbed a finger into their own chest. Both of Qiu's arms spread out openly, gesturing to the wide world all around. Shaking my head at you. Though chuckles, Tamarack put a fake voice that was deeper than her normal one and probably meant to sound mature. I'm Miss Tamarack Bowman. A tamarack is a tree. The introduction got a thumbs up from Qiu. Why do you say it so fancy? Yeah, this right here, I think this is the perfect amount of dialogue choices. Like that whole list that they have, like 12 choices, the things to say. I think that's too much. Personally, I think that's too much. 4 is okay. I think that's a nice number. Me and Luna are the same. 10. Qiu slapped his fingerless, gloved hands against the front of his chest to show just how taken aback he was. Wow, we came at just the right time. Qiu's rapid chuckle sounded more like puffs of air, but you didn't appreciate them either way. The talk you were having ended with a clear clap from Qiu to bring it to a close. Tamarack's wide, knowing gaze met yours. You understood what you had to do. Well, you reached right into your pocket and presented the mystery paper to Qiu. Wanted your own explanation. Oh, yeah, now you ain't looking so smug anymore. But before you even said anything about it, Qiu wheezed with a tight grimace. He looked as stiff as the wood tower behind him, just like that. He stammered and babbled and pointed his finger all around the space that was sort of in front of you, until the word finally came to him. What? I'm with Tamarack right now with this facial expression like, what? Qiu threw his hands up higher towards his shoulders, the sudden movement making sure nothing interrupted his train of thought. Now I'm a thief. I've gone from sorcerer to thief. I've been demoted. What? And why are you smiling about it? Yeah, this one. You caught what? Do you really think I'm a robber? He got all fluttery with his laugh and the waving of his fingers. Qiu tucked one of his hands inside his jacket. He moved it around there, humming the whole time. There was some kind of secret pocket compartment in that pocket. See, look, it's the same paper too. So he did throw the paper plain. They just didn't want to admit it. And just said something way off course. Sorcerer and a thief. I'm really wondering where their train of thought is going. The edges were bent up and crumply, probably from being squished a lot in the ways and a lot of times. There were papers sticking out in weird ways that made you think they weren't even attached to the book anymore. They were just smashed between other pages to keep them in place. But the thing you noticed the most were the colors, tan with dark brown lines. Tamarack squealed, bounding closer to you. She and you had the same idea at the very same time. It was the paper from the airplane. Qiu flipped open the book, tapped in a slow, considering rhythm at the front page with the back of his knuckles, and said what you wanted to know without you having to do anything. But I just got here. I literally just got here. How could I have done that? He shifted on his feet, putting one hand to his hip and using the other to make a waggling gesture with the notebook. Qiu was... I don't know why. When it said waggling gesture, I'm thinking of Phoenix. Is it Phoenix? It's somebody. It's someone from Ace Attorney. It's someone from there just like wagging their finger and be like, no. Some character in there just wags their finger like, nah. That's all I could think about. But that wavy motion Quinn did was too much for the old notebook. It bent in half upwards and downwards, the momentum of its owner's arm. Some of the papers slid out. They drifted to the ground slightly, the same way leaves fell from trees. You stared right at them, sitting there freely like that. Quinn didn't. Q's eyes widened. He lifted the notebook over his head and twisted his feet outwards more to fully clear his view of the grass below. Finally, he spotted the missing pages. In the middle of talking, he dropped to his knees to scoop up the loose papers. It only took a second for each one to be gathered. He leaned off his knees onto his butt and made a little oof sound. From there, he got his feet against the ground while pushing up with his hands still clutched in the paper so he could stand again. With that successfully rescue mission done, Qiu delicately flipped through the notebook, inserting the little loose papers along the way between different pages. He went all the way to the end. The Qiu complete book was pressed shut once more. A beaming smile directed right into your face almost had you covering your eyes, but before that happened, you looked away. Qiu twisted to the side to better rummage inside the hidden pocket of his jacket. He made super sure that the entire stack of papers made it back safely this time. You heard a sigh of relief. In an even swooping move, Qiu tilted his head back over his shoulder to reveal his face again. The bright expression from before was completely gone. He had a smirk again. You just did. If we didn't say anything, you would have lost all those papers. Wait, why is it page 2? There's more dialogue to choose from? Oh my god, there's so many dialogue choices. Why are there so many? Spinal Queen leaned to a lot more forward, all the way into his tippy toes. He stayed up and put his hands against his chest like it was nothing. You didn't know how he stood on them so well. Kuhn's fun with your reaction came out to set as snickers. His cheeky mood drifted away once they were done. Qiu twisted to the side to a better rummage inside the hidden pocket of his jacket. He made sure that the notebook made it back to its normal spot. When he tilted his face back towards you, he was quiet and thoughtful. What do you mean? His growing excitement scrunched into confusion. Qiu brought a hand to his chin while also pointedly squarely at Tamarack with the other. Unless you're Luna's mom. Oh my god. Tamarack was completely tickled by the idea, giggling and covering her mouth with her hands. She didn't do a good job at stopping at any of the laughter from getting out. No, I'm not a mom. I moved in with my Omi and Oppa. It's German, and they're German. I think so, probably. Omi has really long hair, Oppa has short hair, some of it's on his face. Omi and Oppa means Granny and Grandpa. Qiu bobbed his head and down with a great understanding. The Qiu shook his head side to side, flopping down brown strands of hair around trying to sort out his thoughts. I didn't know, not for sure. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. You knew it would be a long story, so you took in a huge breath, turned and put her fist up eagerly in her own preparation to talk about what she had done. I got here today with my mom. She's waiting for the real estate agent, so I had to go spend time doing something. I went down the road and a paper plane hit me in the shoulder and nobody was there. That was me. I threw it right away. It was great. I picked it up and opened the plane and saw stuff written on it. I thought the person throwing the plane was trying to give me a message. But that wasn't me who wrote it. Right. Then Luna went into the forest after and I jumped out of the leaves as a surprise. Qiu nodded along, probably not getting everything you two were talking about, but curious enough to just keep listening. And then I talked to her about the paper airplane I found, and she told me that that she told me what we said, that she made the plan but didn't write what was on it. I asked where she got it. Tamarack chimed in again as your story continued to bounce back and forth between the two of you. I found it on the ground in the woods. It already had the note, but I didn't think it was important at first. Luna made me wonder about it. We went out to discover the word writer. And it was you. Qiu put his hands on his hips and he thought hard about the info he learned from you. I guess so, but if you're the one who wrote that, how'd you know my name? That was on the note, and what were those other words supposed to mean? Hello, go out, hide out, Luna cookie? It doesn't make sense. Qiu cracked a smile and flicked out his arms to start his own explanation. Oh, like that was a checklist of things he was gonna do. Like, go see me, go to his hideout, go out somewhere. Like, that was like his to-do list, and it just happened to be folded perfectly into a message. Okay, got it. Counting 1, 2, 3 on his fingers, Qiu listed off each part of the letter simply. Hello, yeah. Yeah, it's just like I thought. It was a checklist of things to do. Qiu stopped the countdown to pat the sturdy wooden wall behind him with pride. I'm gonna say this. Qiu patted the front of his jacket. I'm sorry, I started reading again. Qiu patted the front of his jacket with all the certainty in the world. You guessed that was where the pocket with the notebook was set. He was right. You and Tamarack had now been able to discover the whole story. But you realized suddenly how late it must have gotten. Your mom would start to worry soon. That wasn't good. Your turning thoughts were put on pause when Qiu suddenly changed the subject. I should probably see how Omi and Oppa are. They're pretty old and need help sometimes. Yeah, we could all go back together. You relaxed your stance, accepting that this was really over now. Yay! Her chill had an extra pizzazz because she still had that stick to point up high. To our houses! While chuckling, Qiu used his fist to enthusiastically punch the air. It matched Tamarack's pose. Yeah! She had cupped her hands around her mouth to make it extra loud, and so you started to walk through the yellow fall grass to get to the neighborhood again, but you weren't going to be alone there. Tamarack bounded ahead, bouncing her arm up and down with a stick like she was the conductor of a marching band, while Qiu came alongside you with even casual steps. You were returning to that house. Your new neighborhood had become even more orange-toned by the time you finally returned to it. The far-off sun slowly sank away behind the tallest mountains and forests to sleep for the night. Your shadows grew larger, pulling away from your bodies to reach out into the street ahead. The dark shapes morphed and combined with one another as you walked in on your own mismatched rhythm. All the while, the eyeballing chilliness of the outside world got more powerful bit by bit. Tamarack still stayed about 2 steps ahead. Sometimes she was closer, sometimes she got away from you again. She used her stick to knock at the bushes and lamps along the sidewalk. Qiu was next to you but had switched things up so that he was taking larger skips backwards. You guessed it was to look at you in the face better, or just thought it was fun. He pointed to the sharpest building on the street as he went. Part of it looked almost like a tower, a different kind than the one in the background. The sounds of your steps continued to echo through the cul-de-sac until you came to stop right at the center of the path. You arrived. Tara put both her hands up in front of her chest and waved them around. I'm going home. Tamarack spun in place before dashing further along the sidewalk to the sloped gray house on the other end of the neighborhood. Her bag clunked and jiggled at her side the whole way there. Qiu pulled out an eager grin. See you. Qiu flipped around to go back to the same way he had come with you. He needed to return to the pointy red house with a huge background. He didn't drop any papers this time. You waited there in front of the house in the dimming evening light, watching the two other kids go to their homes right on the same street. I'm gonna say wave goodbye. That was everything. The whole outing was done. In the quiet resolution of your first day in this place, the two encounters you had earlier that afternoon drifted through your head. Tamarack and Qiu. Okay, what is this? Okay, so I just went through that whole thing. Basically the tutorial was telling me, like, explaining how all this worked and what pairings I can do that to get like the best type of person. Like right now it's kind of like Tamarack, she's set to contesting, praising, and accepting. And now we got to figure out our own. Yeah, so basically if I choose neighbors, we're kind of neutral towards each other. Crushes is obvious and friends is obvious. And also the tutorial mentioned that we could also do a poly relationship. And I'm just like, what? Okay, they were obviously thinking of everything and everyone for this game. I don't know. I think I'm gonna, it does say that you can change this. You can't change this. Like the moment you pick one with your family blows, like it stays there. But this you can change. So right now I'm gonna say friends for now. I'm gonna say accepting. Yeah, you can only choose. You can't like choose. Yeah, you can't like choose like. Yeah, you can only choose 3. So I'm gonna say team working and teasing. Okay, yeah, definitely crush for Qiu. I love Qiu. Qiu was great. We're gonna say accepting again, and then say praising and contesting. I want to be opposite of Qiu, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Things were so different for you from just that morning when you left and went to the drive to move. Before then, you've never been in Golden Grove. You've seen it only in pictures and hadn't known anybody who was a local there. But here you were, a person who lived in town and was friends with the neighbors on both sides of your house who also lived there. Were you friends? You thought so. Even though he wasn't here anymore, and a bunch of other things that happened that day, Qiu was the only thing. Oh my god, so the game already was like, alright, let's add that in already. Okay. What it was like when you first saw him on the tower, when you started to talk to and know him, all that stuff with his notes and papers. He was special. The air outside kept getting even colder, but you were so warm on the inside. It was nice and comfortable in the place that you were. Getting even more lost in your own imagination, you wondered when you get to see him again. Your mom called from the other fence. You bounded forward and passed through the gate. Mom had left the porch and was there to meet you. I bet. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna read this, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is our house now. Mom turned to go and slipped the key out from her sweater pocket. She gestured with the other hand for you to follow. Your mom led the way as you went back to the stairs. The key fit perfectly into the hole at the door, and Mom smiled the sound of unlocking. Carefully, she leaned forward with her shoulder, giving it a nudge, unsure if the best option for the ancient door was the extra force or the extra restraint. The house opened with a creak. Air came out through the front like it was exhaling. Mom let out a breath at the same time. You scooched towards your mom's side in the doorframe. It was then that you noticed there was a mat at the front, and it had color and a kind of hard but fluffy texture. The sort of mat that get dirty looking right away when it was used, but it was still clean and nice. It hadn't been worn down at all like the rest of the building. This was part of the house, wasn't just an old thing left behind by other people who didn't need it or want it anymore. Someone must have put it there for this happening, for your mom and you moving in. Written across the top it said, "Aw." Mom softly tapped the top of the shoulder, bringing you back into the moment. She kept the hand there, leading you ahead with her. The two of you walked through the door. Everything in the air was still. The wind was blocked, but it was practically as cold inside as it was on the outside. Mom shifted forward. A dim light from the ceiling sparked on in an instant, and there in front of you was an old-fashioned living room. The house had furniture that came along with it, but it wasn't a set. The pieces were mismatched, each chair, table, bookshelf in a different color. They were covered in transparent sheets of plastic and in dust. The room had a real fireplace and made out of brick. In the back you could see a staircase going up to another floor. Oh my god, I can't say it's the worst house in the world. Maybe it was just Tamarack who threw the paper plane, but this was where the goats actually were. Your mom touched the tips of her fingers to the muted blue paint next to her. I am? Mom increased the pitch of her voice, squinting her eyes sweetly. Oh, I'll be starting school. She chuckled gently while watching you. Even if I'm here early for the job, I was not going to make you be a full week late to class. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to read her stuff yet. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. You couldn't tell if she thought that was a good thing or a bad thing by her tone, but Mom didn't say any more about that. She lifted her circle scarf over her head, careful not to have it catch on her earrings, and left it on the top of her suitcase. Yeah. The second floor was more of the same, lonely, sealed away rooms with furniture nobody had been using for ages that were covered by plastic sheets, and lots of dust. You could see the footprints your mom left behind in the grime as she wandered the halls with wide, amazed eyes. After checking the state of the whole house, Mom made the decision to leave the furniture in its protection until after the sweeping was finished. There were too many dust bunnies that might jump over to take a seat on your couch if the spot was available. You returned to the living room after Mom got her trusty pair of crafting scissors out of her suitcase. She put her scarf inside it when taking the scissors out. Mom then went through some of the taped up boxes like it was her birthday, and each one was a shiny, unopened present with a ribbon on top. But her gift was just stuff she already owned. One by one, she took out the supplies that had been brought for this very moment, setting them around her legs and the floor wherever there was a space. Then she divided them out into separate piles. A pair of yellow gloves, a fluffy, fresh duster, a bottle of cleaning spray, and a full roll of paper towels. Mom had set on her own, the other was for you. You're going to need them. There was also one broom and a dustpan that did successfully fine. You were going to take turns using that. The first move in the make the house a place where people can actually live plan was yanking over the streaky windows to get some airflow going. Though before even that, you had to get the locks on the window themselves to come loose. You dug your fingers in between the base of the window frame, and the latch pressed against it, forcing it to move against its will. When the lock clicked into place on the opposite side, you shoved the window up with both hands. Your gloves were already patchy with filth. The ice-crisp breeze that flowed in from the outside was a lot more welcome to this point. You got a good look at the neighborhood while catching your breath. Streetlights had come on. But you then left the window there to do its job and got back to yours. The two of you went back and forth, up and down around the house to open up everything that you could. Some windows were jammed in place so tight, you had to leave it alone for your mom to get to later. The next point on the list was to somehow scrub all the floors, walls, counters, every other inch of the space where dust could settle, which was every inch of the entire house. You picked a spot and gave it a sweep with a fuzzy head of the duster. A nice line of clear wood followed behind your motion. That pattern continued for a while, and whenever the dust layer was gone from a spot, you'd go back over it again with a cleaning spray to make it shine. Your mom was able to track down and turn on the heater, not that you could tell the difference with all the windows wide open. Eventually, you had a short dinner break with your mom staying around in a kitchen together with two of you as dusty as the rest of the house. It was packed meals from the car. Simple sandwiches, fruits with thick peels that wouldn't get smashed on the drive, little bags of granola and pretzels and juice boxes. There were no groceries. The rickety fridge was off and totally empty when you checked. I would say it's a relief. You had prepared the worst for such an old, practically abandoned house, but there wasn't a single bottle of nasty ketchup or a box of unknown leftovers. The trash from your food was dumped into the same giant black garbage bag that you've been throwing piles of gray stained paper towels, wads of squished together tape in for the whole night. Somehow the bag was getting full, even though it was big enough to fit your whole body inside. It was a mark of how much work you've really done. Looking at just the house made you think you hadn't even gotten started. The only way to change that was to keep going, as your mom talked about when encouraging yourself to clean again after dinner. You and your mom polished up the house as best you could for even more hours. But when your usual bedtime arrived, Mom put the duster and the scissors down. She wasn't gonna have you stay up late, no matter how excited she was to unpack. She guided you to the first floor bathroom. The ones on the second floor were too dirty to use, plucking her overnight bag off the counter along the way. Your mom explained how she'd do a round throughout the house to close the windows to keep busy until the bathroom was free and left you get ready to bed. Inside the bag was a little baby-sized versions of normal toothpaste, mouthwash, containers, and simple toothbrushes. All you had for pajamas that night was a green long-sleeve shirt with matching pants. You're pretty lazy about it. You finished washing. I'm gonna say this. It's not as if your mom could blame you. There were barely any supplies. It'd been a long day. Took the ribbon off. Then you changed to your pajamas and let your mom have her turn. While she was away, I'm gonna say this. It wasn't something you could sleep without. The furniture was still plastic wrapped, so you crouched down and sat on the rug. Mom returned in only a couple minutes wearing her purple pajamas, and she also had a sleeping bag tucked under each of her arms. She shifted one forward to hold against the front of her chest and dropped the other onto the floor. It landed with a puff. Your mom noted while trying to untie the band that kept the sleeping bag together in a roll. She pulled and pinched at the knot. When it didn't budge, she lifted the bundle to her face and used her teeth to pry the thread bands apart for each other. She got it loose and victoriously flapped the bag all the way open. She laid it down in a clear spot of the wooden floor. Okay. You used your feet and rocked back and forth to move yourself across the antique rug, scooting towards the sleeping bag without getting off the ground. Mom chatted casually while spreading out her own bag nearby. Did your mom know how to use a fireplace? You've never seen one in person until now, and so far, you've still never seen one that had fire in it. Luckily, the house was warm and cozy, even without since the windows stopped letting the chill in. The heater worked. That was sort of a surprise. Mom soon settled down on the center of her temporary bed. She sat cross-legged with her back solidly straight. Her hands came to a rest on the tops of her knees, and she made direct eye contact with you. I'm so tired. I think this would be me. She slouched her shoulders, easing away some of the stiffness. No, Mom, that's not what I did. No, Mom. After pausing just a little, what the work? Cannot read. After pausing just a little to build suspense, you began to narrate the entire story of the paper airplane adventure. From the moment it hit to the way it led you down the forest crossroad, finding Tamarack in her leaf pile and all her surprises, then meeting Qiu on his tower with his notebook full of loose pages. Mom listened with her whole self, leaning forward and grinning wider with each turn you revealed. You wrapped it up by explaining how you returned to the neighborhood with Qiu and Tamarack after everything you discovered. Pretty much. You kicked your legs up and down on your sleeping bag, very pleased with her reaction. It was so fun to tell that story. Somehow, the events of the day felt like they were a long time ago, or that they happened to someone else and you just heard about it. But it happened real. The paper airplane hit your shoulder, you held the note in your hands. I think I'll say it was a keepsake. It had nice memories that went with it. With your topic all done, Mom softly spoke to share her own thoughts with you. Yeah, it is. How did we get to have something like this? Mom pinched her lips together in consideration, then kept talking. Yeah, they did say that it was kind of a small town, and even Tamarack said there's not much to do here. Creases grew around her eyes, and the more she thought about it, she caught herself before a frown could follow. Then your mom stretched her legs out fully across her sleeping bag, wiggling her toes inside and the black socks she had on. Seeing Mom right there on the floor with you was cool. You didn't hang out together during bedtime like this most nights. It was special. As you thought about that, your eyelids were trying to tape themselves up with sticky gritty stuff your eyes made when it was extra late, okay? That sounds like a pretty good idea. Scooping your special pillow into both your arms, you shimmied into the open end of the bag. It was made out of fabric that was so smooth it wasn't difficult to do. You moved farther down until the edge was to your chin. You were wrapped up like a loaf of bread in a grocery bag. Mom got to her feet, taking a short jog over to the far wall of the room. She lifted a finger to the light switch, but kept her gaze down on you. The expression on her face was gentle. The room went pitch black with a click. While your eyes were trying to adjust, you heard the shuffling sounds of Mom. She joined you on the floor again. Those noises soon stopped. Mom didn't talk anymore. There were sounds of cars passing outside. There was a thumping in your ears, and you thought you might heard a creak somewhere. The night noises were a lot different than what you had experienced with. They were so quiet and distant. It made you notice them more than if they were clearer. You have to get to know the sounds better. It was another part of the house's personality. You were okay with that. It was normal to need time to get familiar with each other. You pressed your eyes shut, and your head was thoughts of... I'm gonna say this. You tossed and turned in squishy cocoon, wanting to sleep so tomorrow would come sooner, but too excited to do so. It was way too long of a night. Then your second day in Golden Grove arrived. Alright guys, so it went back to the character customization, and basically the tutorial said like, okay, now that you're about to go into the next phase of the game, you can kind of change up your character a little bit, and which I did. I gave her a little ponytail, and I changed up, gave her a little nut scarf and all the good stuff, because she's about to go to school and all the good stuff. But yeah, she still looks really cute. But your second day had only just arrived. Only one corner of the world outside the window had sunlight. The rest was all shadows. The lights in the house had to be turned on for you to see your own hands. You loved when it was that, oh, I don't know why I was reading it like it was, like it was dialogue. I'm gonna say this one. Everything felt different when the morning was beginning, and you got to relax in the quiet space for a while. The unpacking wouldn't be started again until a lot later. That's what your mom said when you were brushing your teeth. For now, you both only had what was already out. The food around to eat was still the same stuff from yesterday. It was what you had for breakfast already, and you could see your mom packing in a brown paper bag for lunch too. That was the last of the preparation she had to do for school. You were pretty sure your mom really wanted to be the one to get your supplies for the day together. She put stacks of staple papers, a notebook, your pencil case, a ruler, and more into your backpack. Mom had kept the pack on the middle seat of the car to make sure it would be right there when time to use it for class. If it had gone missing, maybe you'd had to carry your school stuff in a cardboard box. Oh my god. The same way you had to bring everything else you owned to this place in big boxes. You watched her from your comfy spot on your sleeping bag. You'd already gotten dressed for the day, but that didn't mean you couldn't sit in bed again. There wasn't anywhere else to. Soon you'd be leaving the new old house and the neighborhood, all the parts of Golden Grove you've forgotten to see so far. The next step into the unknown was North Acres Elementary School. You tried to imagine what it would be like, but school thoughts were shaken out of your head when a muffled thumping sound filled up the air. Mom slowly lowered her full hands down to the counter. At the same time, her head and eyebrows went up. Your mom left your lunch bag incomplete on the tabletop and went to investigate the knocking. I'll say this. The speed of your chase made your sleeping bed slide against the wood floor, but you didn't trip. You were able to pass Mom before she arrived at the start of the entryway. You reached out to get both your hands around the long handle of the front door, pressing it down and giving the stiff board a firm tug. It squeaked open. You glanced ahead, squinting your eyes to adjust from the complete brightness inside the pale dawn outside. Now, I know what some of y'all might be thinking. We don't do this. We don't just... I know it's early morning, kind of almost night, like dawn, right? We don't do this. We don't nonchalantly open a door after hearing a knocking. You look through the peephole. You look through the window. That's what I would do. But I was just like, you know what? But you gotta remember, she's a kid. And she'd probably be like, oh, there must be someone at the door. Maybe it's a new mystery. But don't ever do this. Don't just open a door after hearing knocking, especially if you weren't expecting somebody. Standing tall on the welcome mat, seeming totally at home at your home, was your new friend you had met the day before, Mr. Quinlan. Quinn's fluffy hood was tucked snugly around his head. He didn't usually do that, at least based on how much you knew was usual for him. Maybe it was because the air was somehow even more skin-prickly cold in the morning than it was during the day or evening. You shuddered just from the wind coming in through the opening. When he caught sight of you there, a twinkling grin took over his face. He popped onto the balls of his feet, getting even taller, and cheered a greeting. Seeing who it was, you... Oh my god. Quinn's smile was as bold as ever as he took a full step to the side, so he was directly in front of you instead of Mom. Yeah. You have plans? What plans? He stayed put in the new place he took, but angled his head up and over to give his focus to your mom. Quinn straightened out the line of his bandana with both hands, giggling cheekily, and he made direct eye contact with you. Thoughtfully, your mom's glance drifted down to you. Without looking back at him, your mom replied. Hugh claps his hands together primly. Mom let a content smile rest on her face as she walked back inside the house, leaving you alone with Qiu. You looked back at him eagerly. It was only morning and something good was already happening. Okay, I was worried about this because when I got out of that screen, I had a slight fear that it didn't save the new appearance of my character, but it did, so I'm glad about that. What did you want to say? Hugh didn't beat around the bush with you. He probably didn't with anyone. He came right out with what he had in mind. He squared his shoulders and held out a hand, counting off points of his fingers. Okay now. Okay, Lou, we gotta play this cool, okay? You can't be too eager. Okay, I would say not a good, because this is way too negative. It's just like, why are you picking a fight? But I'm good with this one. He popped an enthusiastic double thumbs up. What? His gaze got sharper, but it didn't feel scary at all. The glance was like a fancy cut jewel rather than a pointy weapon. Okay. With his hands in his pockets, Hugh shifted the whole top half of his body diagonally over to one side. The tilt of his head really showed off the bend of his self-pleased smile. He flung an arm back and arched the fingers across the air in front of both your faces. It might have been to stop you before you could say anything, or to keep himself from forgetting whatever else he wanted to talk about. I was worried about that. I was like, what about Tamarack? Oh my god. Again, no, let's be a little bit of a smart ass this time. You swung your hands behind you and spoke out again. I'll get my backpack and tell my mom we're going. You parted with Qiu for a second, but didn't bother closing the door. The sound of your feet against the floor was the only noise in the huge house. You couldn't have snuck up on Mom if you tried. Each step you took brought you closer, and it made the smile on your face grow larger, but she didn't get distracted from her job. Her gaze stayed stuck on the counter. Mom placed one more bag into your backpack and snapped the plastic clasp on the top flap closed. With that secured, she promptly picked the bag up from the loop handle. She lowered herself down to your height by bending her knees low, then offered the backpack over to you. It was nice and light when you took the pack from her. That wouldn't last. Soon you'd have actual school books to bring around with you. No, he's still here. You answered the question while shifting the backpack over your shoulder, keeping it in place with one hand. He's out there still. Qiu wants to walk to school with him. Can I go? You shifted your focus to the entryway. The bag swung back and forth behind you as you twisted your body around the other way. That was exactly what you thought she'd say. You could count on her sometimes. As she smiled, her face lit softly, like an early morning sunshine outside. Mom pinched the tip of her chin between her thumb and her pointy finger. What's with all the hearts, Mom? She was right. This was your school year in a brand new town. Anything could happen for all you knew. It was an adventure, and you would be ready for it. Through the open door, you could see Quinn waiting patiently on your porch. He turned his back to the house, instead looking around the neighborhood. You came to his side and caught his attention, but his gaze didn't go to yours. It went right to your backpack you had on. Qiu grinned hopefully. I told Mom. It's okay. He smacked his hands together enthusiastically. You perked your ears, going super alert. He said you were friends. It only happened a second ago, but it replayed in your head and made your stomach feel fluttery. You were friends. I don't know why. I saw this line and what is that that princess's name? Dang, someone tell me in the comments. I can see it in my brain. It's like, I knew you liked me. Well, you want these lumps. You have to put a ring on it. Where's my ring? If you guys know where that is from, let me know in the comments. I can't remember her name. A smirk went across his whole face. Qiu was finally certain. Qiu easily swiveled all the way around his heels. He firmly planted his feet into the floorboards on the porch to close out his move. Then he confidently strode forward and leapt over the little steps to get onto the ground. Qiu had places to be, and nothing was going to stand in his way. Happily, he went along with him down the stone path, past the fence, and onto the neighborhood sidewalk. It took less than a minute to go around the bendy curve of your neighborhood that led to the least pointy, least colorful home on the street. Tamarack's house, also her Omi and Opa's house. Qiu and you wandered right into the uncharted territory of their porch. Qiu brought his arms to his side, shook his head to readjust the way his hair fell around his shoulders, and positioned himself squarely in the center of the entryway. The old door began to jiggle in its frame like it was shivering cold from being outside too early, but someone was fiddling with the doorknob on the other side. And then the door swung wide open with a clattering yank, and a gust of flowery perfumed air coming out from the deep inside the house. Still clasping the handle and leaning her head against the wood, Tamarack was there to greet you. She had her bag and scarf on for the day already. Hello! Her eyes popped open. She hadn't looked to see who was at her door before saying hello, but she could tell who it was from that answer. So she's the same as me. She just dashed towards the door and just opened it Didn't care who it was, she just knew someone was at the house. Tamarack's tone of voice lightened even more. Qiu and Luna! You're both here, hi! Qiu followed your invitation with a nod. She blinked rapidly many times all in a row. In the soft pink light, her eyelashes looked almost like shimmering dragonfly's wings. Wow, okay, I want to come. She twisted almost the whole way around, turning her back to you. You could just barely glimpse the darkened hall behind her. Tamarack then leaned over, bending her knees, and powerfully shouted into the depths of the gray house. I'm going to school now! Her loud, high-pitched call echoed through the hallway. Tamarack hopped forward. It was small, but that was all it took to go from being in her house to being on the outside world. She tugged the doorknob with her to slam the door shut. I'm ready! The quickness of all that was too much, and Qiu needed a second to catch up with it. But when she did, he chuckled. Oh, okay. So if somebody calls him, Autumn, then they're talking about Qiu. Oh, okay. I like you. Don't you two go to the same school, though? I know you came 5 days earlier than me, but wouldn't you have, met Qiu already and already know this information? This is like some butterfly effect type stuff. Because if we didn't come to the picture, these two may have never interacted, or maybe interacted later on. Because how are they just now meeting? When she's been here for 5 days, which means she went to the same school as Qiu, but they just never interacted. Until we came in. I'll use the nickname. Qiu lazily settled his hands on his hips and his eyes moved way off to the side, even though there was nothing special to see that way. Yeah. She pumped her fists up and down in the air in a pattern that matched the pace of your yes. All clustered together, you and Qiu Tamarack tramped off the white wooden porch. The full set of the cul-de-sac kids hit the road again. But that wasn't what really stood out to you. It was a little bit amazing you already could compare it to last time. And you could guess that this journey with them wasn't going to be the actual last time it ever happened. It'd just become the last time it happened before the new next time. The first part of the school trip wasn't hard. There was only one way out of your neighborhood unless someone hiked out into wherever the woods went. That would be cool. Maybe you'd be able to do that someday. Your actual path forward had you brush past the forest fork that originally led you to meeting Qiu and Tamarack. But you weren't stuck with the same limits as before. This morning you moved right on by without even stopping to check what might be hidden away back there. Now you traveled even further. The woods crowded closer and closer around the road that led out, until suddenly structures began to appear in between the bushes. The thick overhang of leaves pulled apart to show the sky. The world unfolded ahead of you. Sunshine climbed mountains to just barely tickle your cheeks, while the stars still clustered against your back. You were right in the center of the windy mountain path. It flowed over the uneven ground, blanketing every small bump and bend like the Black River. Along the street, huge wooden poles rose into the sky in a row that rivaled the trees, stretching phone lines and reaching branches over the whole town together. Even though Golden Grove was a lived-in place with man-made things, the vast wilderness was as much a neighbor to the residents as their real people neighbors. Tamarack tramped over the grass, swishing her arms in full-length swings in front of her. She didn't get anywhere near the Tamarack. Qiu's stride was a lot breezier. He took a spot in line closest to the road and didn't even check for cars. His eyes were aimed at the now viewable sky. You ended up somewhere in between them. If Tamarack was a swoosh, Qiu was a breeze, you were a whirlwind. You rushed about, twisting the angle of your head and taking it in every new thing that surrounded you. All that air went out to the window when Qiu started moving his hands around even more than Tamarack. He frankly struck his fingers in and out of each of his pockets, while poking his tongue out in the corner of his mouth. You and Tamarack just watched as he tugged at his jacket and pants while walking. The two of you probably shared the same exact thought. He was looking for his notebook, or paper, or something. And it was paper, but it wasn't his special tan pages. The thing Qiu grabbed was a thick folded packet of white printer paper that was covered all over in tiny ink words. You could instantly tell what it was. That many papers stapled together with that many little words on them only ever came from one place: school. Qiu held it close to his face. He had his nose completely in what was basically a book, but for some reason he started to talk to you and Tamarack. For a second, Qiu peeked over the pages to look at the both of you. Tamarack thought hard, but she didn't find an answer in her head. She squished her hand under the flap of her bag without unbuckling it. She had to find her own papers. What the world? Okay. Qiu used his thumbs to bend the papers down. They stopped hiding his face and you could see he was smiling. Tamara waved her packet in the air in a crinkling flurry. Me three! We're gonna be stuck together. Oh! Your mom had given you the papers. Qiu probably got his from his mom and dad, and Tamarack from her Omi and Oppa. Despite being kind of different, the papers were all the same. A smirk settled in its regular spot in Q's face. All according to plan, if somehow could have planned it. What's with all the hearts, Q? He didn't need the packet for anything else, so he stuffed it into his pant pocket with a shrug of one shoulder. Oh, so the chances were kind of, I want to say 50-50, but you got like, what, a good 25% chance that all three were going to be in the same class. When Qiu made sure it was deep enough to not just fall out, he brought both his arms into an even bigger shrug and chuckled too. Tamarack peered into his face with wide eyes, leaning over so much that you almost walked into her. She didn't have to say what her question was with words. Qiu got it. What does that mean? Qiu made a very serious, reassuring okay sign with his fingers, but in an instant it snapped into a pointing gesture. Okay, is a teacher not supposed to have kids? Is that what you're saying? Wow. I mean, they're adults too. They can be a teacher with kids. Why are you guys giving them requirements or restrictions? The same way all adults do. Exactly, Luna. So she's just like, they're adults. The extra burst of confidence got Qiu to take a few long strides ahead of you and Tamarack, keeping his chin high. Tamarack bounced across the grass, kicking her knees high to catch up. She didn't let him keep the lead he took. If that's how it was, you weren't going to let yourself be last. You burst forward to get back in the middle of the row. You were greeted with grins from both of them. Your steps came back into a steady rhythm between the three of you. These are a lot of good questions here. I'm going to suspect that maybe they'll come back, but maybe not. I'm gonna ask about the teacher, because that was strange, because it seemed like he didn't want her to be the teacher but did at the same time, and then said that weird thing about, oh, she has kids. And I was like, okay. His dark brown eyes stretched open as wide as they could. His whispered words were pulled out just as long. It was a deep secret confession. Oh, okay. So if he's got like, people do this all the time. Like there's like your work self and there's like your home outside self. So he was just like, this teacher knows me outside. So if he goes to school acting like a whole different way, the teacher's gonna catch Qiu on his bullshit and be like, hey, why are you acting like that? You're not like this. So I kind of see why. He's like, I'm trying to be cool, but you're ruining for me. I wouldn't be surprised if the teacher even knows like the family, like, you know, like a family friend, or could be like his aunt or something. So he's just kind of, so it's like the equivalent of having your mom as a teacher. You're like, oh. So that's probably why. The seriousness of it only lasted a second. Qiu laughed at it instead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like I said, like he can't act a certain way in her class because she's gonna know. Instead, Tamarack put on the shocked expression Qiu had just put away. Oh, I never seen a teacher outside of school. When do they leave? Oh my god. This has always been a joke for the longest time. That many kids, especially in early ages, assume that teachers live and breathe in the school. Like they just never leave. Like they're goblins. Like the moment the kids leave, they'll all go to their little lairs or dungeons, or maybe there's like a secret path with a bedroom. And then teachers just live there. So when you see your teacher outside of school, you're like, oh, why are you here? And they're like, we have lives too. We have families. We have other things to do. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh my god. They just kind of think it's like I guess, like Hogwarts, I guess. Like the teachers are always at the school, so to see them outside is kind of weird. Pretty late usually, but they do go home and do errands and stuff. I've experienced it. Oh, that was interesting. You learned something new. The longer the walk went on, the more Tamarack's gaze was pulled onto the forest edge along the road instead of what was right in front of her. Her steps drifted unevenly. Okay, she's starting to like not want to go to school now. Now she's like, I'm gonna go into the forest. I want to play with the plants and get lost. You couldn't blame her. She had done the same during the trip a few times, but you weren't the only one who noticed her focus. It's the only nice place I've seen here so far. She said it in the plainest way possible, and the words still made Qiu gasp hard enough to cough. Yeah, lots. They're not good. Did you not like that answer? Qiu shook off the shot Tamarack's statement hit him with. He turned his cheek to the front as he rolled his shoulder. He was winding up for a comeback. Okay. Really? What is it? He cast a reel and Tamarack was hooked on it. She instantly became invested in whatever Mr. Qiu had up his line. Okay. What? Tamarack shrieked in a tone so high it scared away the bird who was minding its own business in a tree above. It was hook, line, and sinker. The beat of its wings fluttering through the air matched Quinn's giggling. He brought a hand to his chin and leveled a mischievous glance at Tamarack. What do you mean one day I'll understand? And that was really it. He closed up his lips, folded his arms, and settled into not explaining for the rest of the walk. Tamarack couldn't accept that, or couldn't get the hint. She pestered him with the passion in her words, getting stronger every time she repeated them. Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me the thing, tell me the special thing. Qiu, tell me the special thing. Immediately, I didn't even look at the other options because it really was too funny. You could watch that all day. The conversation of Tamarack's attempts to squeeze Qiu for info and the snickers that escaped from Qiu continued while you headed towards your goal. Down the road some more, over the crosswalk, past the main street, taking a turn to the corner. That was when the widest building you'd seen so far came into view. There had been taller ones, cause that one had only 2 floors, but there was a lot of those floors. North Acres Elementary School, the name made sense. You wondered exactly how many acres it was. Dozens of other kids were pouring out from a few different paths, mixing together under the front arches above the giant door. You tried to stand up straight, wanting to do things right. Then you went to the first door. Qiu and Tamarack stayed even closer to you than on the walk there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I'm gonna do for the Our Life Now and Forever demo. If you would like for me to play the rest of the game when it comes out, because it hasn't been released yet, then you guys know what to do. But this game is really cozy, very cute, and has a lot of funny moments. This is so many paths to it, like just with the dialogue choices alone. Because you saw how much there were. There was like 12 for like each one. Like it could go so many different ways. So if you do want me to play this game when it comes out, I'm just going to do one run through of it, because to go back and forth, come back and do another path, come back and do another path, I would probably be playing this game for like a whole year, because there's just that many choices with everything. But yeah, it was a nice change of pace and within other than what I usually play. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! A light switch. Or cautiously feeling around for